Billionaire CEO arrived at the single dad's house at 3 a.m. Her dark obsession was revealed. The loud knock at exactly 3 o'clock in the morning echoed through the small wooden house on the edge of a quiet town outside Nashville, Tennessee. Jacob Carter had barely slept after finishing another late shift at the local repair garage, and his 8-year-old son, Noah, was asleep on the old couch under a faded blanket. When Jacob opened the front door, the headlights of a line of black luxury SUVs illuminated the yard. Standing in front of him was Victoria Hayes, one of America's youngest billionaire CEOs, dressed in a dark coat with tired eyes that looked as though they had carried years of pain. She had crossed hundreds of miles in the middle of the night for one reason only, and the truth she carried would change both of their lives forever. If you believe kindness always finds its way back and that everyone deserves a second chance, please like this video, leave a comment, share it with someone you care about, and subscribe to the channel for more heart-touching stories. Jacob had lived a simple life ever since his wife passed away from cancer 6 years earlier. Every morning, he prepared Noah's breakfast before school, spent long hours repairing old cars, and returned home exhausted but determined to give his son the happiest childhood possible. Money was always short, but love was never missing inside their tiny home. Their furniture was old, the roof leaked whenever it rained, and every dollar had to be carefully planned. Yet Jacob never complained because Noah's smile reminded him that some treasures could never be measured by a bank account. Victoria Hayes lived in a completely different world. She owned skyscrapers, private jets, luxury estates, and companies worth billions of dollars. Business magazines called her fearless, powerful, and brilliant. Investors admired her confidence, while competitors feared her determination. But behind every glamorous photograph was a lonely woman haunted by a memory she had never been able to erase. For nearly 15 years, she had secretly searched for one ordinary man without ever telling anyone why. Jacob looked at the expensive vehicles filling the narrow road and wondered if someone had made a terrible mistake. He had never met Victoria before, and he certainly had no connection to billionaires. Yet when their eyes met, Victoria looked at him with overwhelming emotion, as if she had finally found someone she had spent half her life searching for. She quietly stepped forward and held out an old leather wallet that looked worn by time. Jacob froze. It was the very wallet he had given away almost 15 years earlier. Back then, Jacob had been a struggling college student working 2 jobs. One rainy evening in Chicago, he had found a young woman sitting alone outside a hospital, crying uncontrollably after losing both of her parents in a tragic accident. She had no money, no family nearby, and no hope left. Without asking her name, Jacob gave her every dollar he had, his wallet, and the old silver cross his mother had given him before she died. He told the stranger that life always gives another sunrise to those willing to keep walking. The next morning he left the city forever, never expecting to see her again. That young woman had been Victoria. While Jacob forgot the encounter as just another act of kindness, Victoria never did. She rebuilt her life, finished college, started a technology company from a tiny apartment, and eventually became one of the wealthiest women in America. Every success reminded her of the stranger who had believed in her when she believed in nothing. She hired investigators to find him, donated millions in his honor, and even established charities inspired by the compassion he had shown her. Yet every search ended with disappointment until only days earlier, when an old employment record finally led her to Jacob's modest home. Jacob listened quietly, unable to believe that one forgotten evening had shaped another person's entire future. He looked around his little house with embarrassment, apologizing for not having much to offer his unexpected guest. Victoria smiled gently. She had attended dinners with presidents and celebrities, but somehow this tiny living room felt warmer than every mansion she owned. As dawn slowly approached, Noah woke up and nervously greeted the elegant visitor. Victoria noticed how polite and caring the little boy was. She watched Jacob prepare breakfast with the same patience and love that he had once shown a complete stranger. At that moment, she realized the kindness that had saved her years ago had never disappeared. It had simply continued living inside the family he had built. The following weeks changed everything. News spread that the billionaire CEO had been visiting a mechanic living in a forgotten neighborhood. Reporters invented stories. Social media filled with rumors claiming Jacob had secretly known Victoria for years or that he had manipulated her for financial gain. Some accused him of chasing fame, while others insulted him without knowing the truth. The attention threatened the peaceful life Jacob had worked so hard to protect. Neighbors became suspicious, strangers surrounded his workplace, and Noah struggled to understand why everyone suddenly recognized his father. Jacob even considered asking Victoria to stay away so his son could return to a normal life. Victoria understood his fears. Instead of forcing her way into his world, she quietly began helping from a distance. She donated new equipment to Jacob's repair shop without putting her name on it. She secretly paid for Noah's education through an anonymous scholarship. She repaired roads in the neighborhood and funded community projects that benefited every family instead of only Jacob's. Months later, Jacob discovered who had been responsible. He thanked Victoria but asked why she never told him. She simply answered that true kindness should never expect applause. She had learned that lesson from him years earlier. One evening, Victoria finally revealed the truth behind what many newspapers had called her strange obsession. She admitted that for years she had carried unbearable guilt because she believed her success belonged to the man who had rescued her broken spirit. Finding him had never been about romance, business, or publicity. It had been about thanking the only stranger who had shown her unconditional compassion when the entire world seemed to have forgotten she existed. Jacob smiled gently. He explained that kindness is never a debt to be repaid. It is a gift meant to be passed forward. If Victoria truly wanted to honor that rainy night, she should continue helping people who could never repay her. Those words changed her once again. Victoria expanded her charitable foundation across the United States, creating programs for struggling single parents, children who had lost loved ones, and families facing impossible financial hardships. Every new building carried a small silver cross engraved near its entrance, reminding her where hope had first returned to her life. Jacob continued repairing cars. Although Victoria offered him executive positions and luxurious homes, he chose to remain exactly where he belonged. He believed that happiness was not measured by wealth, but by the people waiting for you at home every evening. Years later, Noah graduated from college debt-free and chose to become a pediatric doctor because he wanted to help children whose families could not afford medical care. When reporters asked what inspired him, he simply said that kindness had built every chapter of his life long before he understood its value. Before this story ends, tell us in the comments, what is the greatest act of kindness a stranger has ever shown you? Your story may inspire someone who desperately needs hope today. The night that began with mysterious knocks at 3 in the morning ended up becoming the beginning of countless new lives. A forgotten wallet, an old silver cross, and one selfless decision prove that even the smallest act of compassion can echo across decades. Neither Jacob nor Victoria could have imagined that a few dollars and a few encouraging words would eventually touch thousands of families throughout America. Sometimes the greatest miracles do not arrive with fame or fortune. They arrive quietly, disguised as ordinary kindness, waiting for someone brave enough to give without expecting anything in return. If this story touched your heart, please like the video, share it with your friends and family, leave a heartfelt comment, and subscribe to the channel. Your support helps us continue sharing inspiring stories that remind the world kindness is still alive. Because sometimes the richest person in the room is not the one with billions of dollars, but the one whose heart never stopped believing in others.